The news that you can only find here, the note industry update with Eddie Speed. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to Note School TV, where we are here every single Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. So make sure you're joining, and make sure that if this content is valuable to you, make sure you're liking these videos. It means a lot to us. We'd love for you to subscribe to the channel if this is content you'd like to regularly get. And if you'd love to participate and join in with what we're doing, make sure you're clicking the bell notification so that you're notified when we go live every single Wednesday, so that you can jump on, type in some questions, say hi, share some stories, whatever it is that you would like to bring to the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're brand new to this channel or brand new to Notes or even Note School, and you're trying to figure out what this is all about and what we cover, you can always learn a little bit more by going to noteschool.com/TV to kind of dip your toe in the water and figure out what that next step looks like for you. If you are, again, wanting to engage a little bit further, stick around. After this, we've got a great show for you today. But after this, we're going to have a little bit of an after party where we really discuss the questions that you're typing in right now, even as we speak, and throughout when Eddie says certain things or when topics are brought up. Man, we'd love for you to engage with us. We'll stick around at the end, and any questions we don't get to, we'd love to dig into that a little bit further. Today, we have an awesome show with some incredible, timely information. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the news.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is Joe Varnador. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Man, I am wonderful. And you're right. Today, we have an amazing show. And it's the note industry update. And Eddie has been, grinding it out. We got the latest stuff there. But before we start, and I know Eddie's going to, he's digging deep today. So I wanted to give a couple of just feel-good pieces today. So before we get started, so the first news article that we're going to go over is, houses in Austin, Texas are selling more over asking price than any other major city in the U.S. And it quotes a Redfin agent, April Miller, and she said she recently helped a client with an offer for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house listed at $515 and pulled out all the stuff, right? The offer was $100,000 over asking price, and they waived the appraisal and the financing contingencies, but they still came in third out of 38 offers. $100,000. There was 4 offers over $100,000 over asking price. She says every potential buyer offered more than asking price, and the 4 top offers were $100,000 over asking. You wonder when they started waiving the appraisal and the financing contingencies, what in the world would they? What else could they waive, right? And then secondly, right, we talk about what's going on in the U.S. So, guys, I was looking yesterday, and the most expensive house for sale in the United States of America is The One, right? It's got a name. It's in Bel Air, California, and it is for sale for $500 million, right? It's 100,000 square feet. And it is, I think it has 20 bedrooms and 30 bathrooms, and just, we can imagine what that would be like, right? So that is the feel-good news for today. We are going to, let's bring on Eddie, and we'll chat just a second. And then, Eddie, you're going to jump right into it, my friend. So, Eddie, how would you like to carry the, you wouldn't even finance that, right? The one in Bel Air, but it would probably cost you $10 million a year to own it, right?
Well, my dad used to talk about buying a horse, Joe, and he used to say buying a horse is like buying a wheel for a Cadillac, right? because it takes the feed and the barn and the saddle and the trailer, right? All that. So my dad used to laugh and tell people when they'd look at buying a horse that they were just starting. I think if you bought that house, you'd just be starting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Small city. Well, Bob Hope, when at his house there, the way when airliners would come in, start their approach from the north into LAX,
yeah,
that was their reporting point. They knew they were in the pattern when they saw Bob Hope's big house there. So anyway, Eddie, you got a lot to cover, so I'm going to just kind of back out here. I'll be in the background, and let's do this thing, man.
Well, once a month, we try to basically look at the market of real estate and how it would relate to the note industry or the creative financing industry. And as Joe has already alluded, we have an on fire real estate market. And we pulled together a lot of data slides. There's some things that we're going to introduce you to today, and I want to make sure that you kind of know what we're tracking here. So there's some terminology. You'll see this EHS, and that stands for existing home sales. So we believe relative to our market that we should stay focused on existing home sales because creative financing is probably not going to be on the new home built or builder product, but on an existing home product. So when you look at that, this number is at an amazing number of 6,220,000. Now it is coming down slightly. So it really was at a peak right about here, which if you would looked at that, that probably would have been about October of this year. So actually it's not the home sale rate as far as number of properties is trending down just a little bit right now. So we're not feeling it because we're seeing increasing prices, and we're going to have several of these slides and we'll talk about this. So median sales price of a property. Now, once again, that EHS, what does that stand for? Existing home sales. So right now, median prices, this is going to be nationwide, is at 313,000. And so if you looked at it literally back at this chart in 2017, we were at about 225. So this shows you the appreciation rate of residential properties. Pretty significant there for sure. And here's another expression. So Joe, I learned this expression recently from one of the guys that does a lot of analytical work for us, Mr. Kevin Moore. Thank you for your help on some of these slides. And he said, Eddie, that's a FOMO. And I said, a FOMO. And I've been around real estate for 40 years, and I had to ask him what that meant. And he said it's called the fear of missing out. And apparently that's a thing. Like this is a common expression, particularly people that do a lot of research data. So there you go. Fear of missing out. Now, this is existing home sales median price. This is the percentage change year over year. Okay. So the percentage change year over year. And if you look at this numbers right in here, which was September, and this was October of last year, and you can just see a heck of a trend, and it went down a little bit in December, and now we're back up at the highest of anything on the chart at 15.8% year over year change. Existing home sale prices are up 15.8% from February of last year, from February of 2020. So, wow. Okay. The percentage change in the amount of properties sold. So these, once again, we're sticking with our existing home sales. And this is the percentage year over year in the number of properties sold. And look at these numbers in here. Crazy numbers, right? All of these are over 20%. So starting back in September of last year, and then trending all the way into January of this year. February's off a little bit, kind of interesting. So the number of home sales are back to what we were kind of in July of last year, this past month. Prices are up, sales are down. Why? Less properties listed. The lack of listings is driving the number of sales. The lack of listings are driving the price, right? So a shortage of inventory means that they're fighting over the inventory that they have. That's why everybody that knows anybody and they're selling residential houses, your realtor buddies, or if you're a realtor, are all telling you these crazy stories about these overlist offers, these multiple overlist offers. As Joe's story about the one in Austin, it's all over the country. I live here in Dallas-Fort Worth, and it's certainly the case here. So here's an interesting thing. So they do a Realtors Confidence Index, and this is just a survey. It's not really a data point, but it tells you the confidence that realtors have in the market. So first-time home buyers, and by the way, this is the darker orange is this year, and the lighter orange is last year. So we're fairly close to the same as far as their confidence in first-time home buyers. Their sales to investors, they're even money. Cash sales, their confidence level is slightly higher right now. And by the way, these houses that sell over price, they usually got to kick the additional money in down payment. So if you pay over list, it's going to probably appraise at list. So any overage money that you're paying is an additional down payment. So cash sales are definitely a factor today. Distress sales, well, there's not much confidence in that. They're at a 1. That's about as low as you can be. And then days on the market, they were at a 20. Their index said they're at a 20 this year, and they were at a 36 last year. So pretty interesting data there. And people always want to know, well, where are these home sales happening? By the way, any of you that want these charts, let me make sure that you know how to do it. You can go to info@noteschool.com, and we're glad to provide you this PowerPoint deck. Because there's a lot of data in these things, and we realize that you guys would like to maybe have that. So just go to info@noteschool.com, and that little watermark you see in the bottom, that's the email address, and we will be glad to send you these slides. So you might want to specify that it is the note industry update on this day, so our staff knows exactly when you're looking for that. Wow, look at the South. Whoa. 45% of sales are happening in the South, 22% in the West, 12% in the Northeast, and look at the Midwest, 21% in the Midwest. So these two guys right here are carrying 65% of the market, right? Two regions of the country are carrying 65% of the market. That's interesting. And then the price range of what's selling, this is another interesting number. So 40% are the 250 to 500,000. That's the clear takeaway. The second to that is the 100,000 to 150,000, and that's 31%. So take 250 and below, or 100 to 500,000, 100,000 to 500,000, and you've got 71% of what's selling. What's the other numbers? 100,000 here, 100,000. Let me get my highlighter going. This is 6% of the market. So the below 100,000 is 6% of sales. Over $1 million is 5% of sales. 750 to $1 million is 5% of sales. Now you're going to see here in a minute, this is way up from what it was. And the 500 to 750,000 is 13%. Pretty interesting data there. Percentages from sales from a year ago, same price bands. Here's something interesting. A 0 to 100,000 is down. Number of sales is down 25%. Wow. I didn't think anything could be down right now. Well, this is according to the National Association of Realtors. The 100 to 250,000 is down 10%. Now remember, they were about 30% of the market, but they were a bigger piece of that pie last year. The 250 to 500,000, well, they're up 13%. The 500 to 750 is up 50%. The 750 to $1 million up 66%. And the over $1 million is an astonishing up 81% over last year, year-over-year comparison. Pretty interesting data there. Shows you what people are chasing. What do they call it? They call it a FOMO, fear of missing out. All right. Well, I don't think this is a shocker. This is that flipping's gross margins. This is going to be the blue line. Flipping's gross margin has been going down for the past 4 years. And I see it continuing to go down. Why? Why would somebody sell a house to a flipper? Because somehow listing it through a realtor wasn't successful. In other words, the reason the house buying business, buying houses for cash at a discount, the reason that business exists is because of some inefficiency in the traditional real estate brokerage model. So the real estate brokerage model isn't filling that gap. That property then falls over to the house flippers. Now, I've been on a bandwagon for over 2 years telling real estate investors that they need creative financing, because the way that they structure the financing can make them successful in buying a house in spite of seemingly overpaying. In other words, the seller would be carrying part of the financing and you would pay him today's price, but what? With tomorrow's money. The theory is it doesn't matter what you pay for a property. It just matters when you pay it, right? And so I believe that real estate investors are going to have to continue to reinvent themselves in the market because their margins are sliding, and the data says so. So, and that was in the M report, by the way. Here is a very interesting data fact, I think. 76% of U.S. non-homeowners do not plan to purchase a house in the next 6 months. Tenants are not the new fuel to buy new houses. That's what this chart says. 43% cite affordability constraints as the main deterrent. Right? So this price surge that we're seeing in the market is pushing away a lot of who would become the next new homeowner, first-time buyer types that are living in rentals. So kind of an interesting data fact there. That was an article that came out yesterday. And so we now see that Biden's administration announces the extension of foreclosure moratorium and forbearance options, and that is going to be 2 days. So it was extended to on the forbearance until June 30th of 21. Okay, for an additional 6 months, which is going to end in September, and then on the evictions for rentals, that is extended to June 30th. So that is a big deal because it's driving factors in the market. I've been saying for 6 months that the burnt out hobbyist landlord, this small time 1 to 5 unit landlord, that he might have disliked his rentals. He loved them when he bought them. Then he found out he was making a lot more of an investment in a job than he was an investment in just real estate, because they're self-managing. 3/4 of these small investors self-manage. There's 17 million houses in the United States that are owned by somebody that owns 1 to 5 rentals. 75% of those self-manage. So CNBC came out with an article this morning talking about the eviction moratorium has now been stretched out, went from March now to June 30th. Now, all of a sudden, because of that reason, it's forcing a lot of landlords to sell, which is, if you go back and look at what we've been saying, I've been saying this now for 6 months. It's the obvious. It doesn't make us smart. It does mean that our team pays good attention to market data. See, I believe if you have market data, you can make smart decisions. Without market data and just looking at a couple of variables in the market might cause us to make a more emotional decision. And we all understand emotional decisions sometimes in business aren't good things, right? So this is on the CDC extension. But wait a minute, it's been ruled unconstitutional. Say it ain't so, Eddie. Say it ain't so. Yeah. So it has been ruled unconstitutional, and so these evictions being extended is going to be a state-by-state basis because of that reason. And this does only apply to government-sponsored entities, or it's also called government-sponsored enterprises. It's funny, the E stands for actually 2 different things. This is going to be Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, and FDA loans. So these are going to be the loans that these eviction ban relates to. So not every house as a rental is subject to the eviction ban, is what we're saying. Okay, let's look at the other side of the coin. Remember, we've kind of alluded to this before, and that is we've alluded to the fact that while residential real estate is on fire, we're going to be the first to say this is a thing. Residential real estate is on fire, but there's an issue. And the issue is there's a lot of loans that are delinquent and a lot of loans that are in forbearance. Let's look at delinquency. Now, delinquency, this was delinquency a year ago. Okay, so this was the overall delinquency a year ago. And this is the overall delinquency, the latest date, which is December of 2020. Okay. What's the big bomb, right? What's the big bomb? When you see these numbers going down here, you're saying, well, delinquency looks better, Eddie. What's happening is the delinquency is moving over. And you see it start right here, and you see it really big right here. Now this is for October, which is here, November, which is here, and December, which is here. What about foreclosure? Nope, they're not in foreclosure. They are delinquent, but not in foreclosure. This is shadow inventory. And then obviously, we see this a lot. If you just want to take a summary of delinquent loans to get a sense of how many assets we're talking about, how big is this pile, Eddie? Well, the bottom line is number of properties that are 30 more days past due or in foreclosure, totaling 3.3 million properties. seriously delinquent over 90 days, and we think these are probably deals that won't cure. They're either going to have to be sold or foreclosed on. It's 2 million of them. Pretty big numbers there. Remember, you can get these data slides from us if you're interested in doing more of a drill down on each one of the slides. This defines a big difference in fair and good credit. These are the people that are now qualifying for a mortgage. And otherwise, quite honestly, the good category, these guys generally are not qualifying for a mortgage. So this category in here, this bottom category, are generally what's expected. These people are the ones that are now qualifying for a mortgage. This is how tight mortgage credit is. That's why you see the average credit so tight. Okay. Here's an interesting thing. Here's where $1 of rent goes. So $1 of rent, interestingly, here's the $1 of rent. 38 cents goes to mortgage, 16 cents for building and maintenance, property taxes, 12% for capital improvements, 10% for employee payroll, and 10% for owners, investors. You're kidding. They're profiting 10 cents on every dollar? Yes. Oh, by the way, the Landlord Association is putting out a lot of information right now to encourage people to buy rentals, that rental property rents are going up. The average is $3. So guess what? If you take this number right here, they're going to make 30 cents more on the increase in rents. I don't know, Eddie. I'm not sure. By the way, new investors are outpacing existing investors at about 20-to-1 rate in buying new properties. So the guys that are buying rentals today are not the seasoned veterans. The guys that are buying rentals today are the HGTV new guys. Wow, look at this number. As of January 31st, there was 1 million homes for sale, down 26% from a year ago. And there is 1.45 million realtors. I guess there's going to be a lot of splitting commissions in this old game, huh? Wonder if the 80-20 rule is going to apply here. 80% do 20% of the realtors do 80% of the business. I'm betting so. I'm betting it's even more extreme than that. Affordable housing. So now you're looking at affordable housing, and guess who is rising its head? Well, I have a lot of experience in the old manufactured housing world. In the manufactured housing world, for a brand new higher end manufactured house is at about $200,000 pace. It's pretty interesting. And here's something that is a lesser priced manufactured home. And I remember back in the 90s when 1 out of 4 houses sold was a manufactured home. And that was because of affordability. And I'll bet you that we're going to see those kind of numbers jump up again. So manufactured housing in the low price band, there's little to no financing in the manufactured housing space like there is in others. So it'll be interesting as how we solve the problem. Oh, wait, I know, there is financing. Don't say no financing, say seller financing. How you like that little spin, Joe? All right. Well, the ship is unlodged. They finally got it loose in the Suez Canal. If you've been hearing this story, largest ship, I guess, in the world was sideways lodged in the Suez Canal. There was 100 ships backed up behind it. He's finally free. I'm glad he is. Things are looking a little out of focus here, Joe. We're looking just a little out of focus on some things. Let's talk about it. So we got a housing shortage. We got a lack of new construction. We got lumber prices up 180%. Adds 24,000 to the cost of a new house. Prices in real estate on residential real estate is through the roof, and interest rates are now over 3%. The highest number in history of the millennials, ages 30 to 39, are buying property. Who the guys that said they were never going to buy? Remember that 5 years ago? What's a person to do? Well, the first thing a person should do, in my opinion, is know what the market says. We know what the market says. We have a lot of opportunities to look at it differently. So what does this all mean? Well, we have 3% of loans in forbearance. We have 5.8% of mortgages that are delinquent, up 250% year over year from a year ago. We have loan servicers that have advanced $90 billion in advances to bondholders. $90 billion is the check that mortgage servicers have already advanced in principal and interest, taxes, and insurance payments. I hope they can keep writing the check. That extension is now into September. Wow. 9% of mortgages aren't making payments. 9% of every residential mortgage did not make a payment out of the mailbox this month. You have 10.2 million tenants that owe $53 billion in back rent. Joe?
Well, Eddie, I think that about that's a mic drop. What, right? So I wonder if
I don't know what to say. These are just the data facts.
Eddie, it's here and it's here, right? It's almost like there's two different economies. Well, there pretty much is with the straight up, and then there's this hovering piece down here below. And I guess, did the thing about getting sideways, did they, I think we had that before the ship got sideways, right?
Well, listen, people ask us all the time, what's going to happen? And I'm like, guys, I don't know. We've never seen this market. Yeah, here's what I know. I know that landlords are in a pickle. Yeah. And I know that if I were chasing buying properties on creative financing terms, and by the way, I am, my number one target would be small, what we call hobbyist landlords. Yep. Very part-time people. They're trying to manage their own rentals, but they're not doing well with it. And I think their stress point's really high. So if I'm looking for a soft spot in the market, that's the case. We have a high demand of people in the note business right now. Maybe the highest demand for small private investors I've ever seen in 40 years is today. Yeah. I'm certain it's today. So because people, once again, they can't buy a rental that'll make money, so they want to buy a note because it'll produce income. So a lot of things are pushing in our direction. And so we are not doing any of this to try to scare you. We are simply doing all of this so that you now understand market voids. Joe, people make a lot of money filling voids in the market, right?
It's always been that way. Yeah. And, there are the market voids. And I'll tell you, I think this last extension from CDC may be that straw that, broke the proverbial camel's back, right? And so
we were sort of lonely predicting all this, weren't we, Joe?
Yes, we were, for sure. And, it's just, look, an informed mind makes much better decisions than an uninformed mind. So take that as it is. Make sure, guys, and get these slides, right? I mean, I think, you can get a lot out of them, and there's a lot of meat in there as you move forward, for sure. So, Eddie, why don't we bring Mr. Brian Lochner on here, and we'll wrap this up and go to Feeding Frenzy Friday. Then we'll go to the after party, and we'll talk about more about some of these data points with Brian.
Let's do it.
That is right. So obviously, always good stuff. I mean, it's so good to hear this content. It's so necessary for investors to have really a pulse on the data. And more importantly, if you're spending marketing dollars, you're targeting people, like Eddie said, you really want that to be as targeted as you possibly can. Stop trying stuff that worked maybe 3 years ago and look at the data and start implementing some new stuff into your strategies. So good stuff today, Eddie. Really appreciate it. Yes, like Joe said, Note School TV is sponsored by the Feeding Frenzy Friday and Notes Direct. Well, I know there's some new people on here, and so if you're wondering what in the world is the Feeding Frenzy Friday, it is a playlist that we have here on the Note School YouTube channel where each week we break down a note off of Notes Direct to talk about the pros and cons of performing and non-performing notes to help you master your level of due diligence and confidence moving forward so you can buy notes just like Eddie does. And so check that out. Next week, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Bob Bullinger, who's going to be talking about partials, and we're going to get into that and how we can really build our wealth. As always, we are live. We do start every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time, and so make sure you're jumping in and chime in the conversation going in the comments section there. Again, if you'd like to participate, or even if these videos are valuable to you, just simply click the like button, as well as subscribe to the channel. And like I said earlier, click that notification bell. It's the little bell up at the top, and it will notify you when we go live so that you're reminded, oh yeah, I want to jump on. I want to ask Eddie a question that is just burning inside, right? So check that out. You can always go to noteschool.com/TV to learn a little bit more about notes and Note School and really what we cover. We've got several opportunities coming up to where you can come to some trainings and really deepen your knowledge moving forward. If you're somebody who says, I need help right now, though, Brian, I can't wait. There's this real need in my business, man. Go to noteschool.com. Click on the tab that says contact us and simply reach out. We'd love to get on a phone call and see what we can do to help you move forward and take that next step on your journey. And so for those of you who enjoyed the show, you'd like to see past live shows, you can always click on the link that we're going to put up on the screen right here to see previous episodes. For everybody else, if you can't stick around, we'll plan on seeing you next week. But for those who want to hang around for the after party, we will see you on the other side. Thanks for coming. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, Mr. Speed. Mr. Speed. Yes, sir. You know, it's kind of fascinating. One of the things you said that really resonated, I'm looking at the comments, is this targeting burnout landlords, right? You know, I think we can all relate, or at least understand, right, that, look, if you're not getting rent for months and months and maybe even a year, you're really struggling because you can't really do anything as the landlord, and you may not have the options that some of the other landlords have, right?
Yeah, you know, we started seeing this trend. We have understood that a lot of landlords found out buying their rentals took a lot more energy and effort.
Yeah,
and they found out they got a lot more invoices sometimes than they got net rent checks. And that happened before the virus. But when the virus started, then we sort of knew there was a soft spot. Like, this investor really wasn't a hardened old-time landlord. You know, he was, a lot of times he was somebody that was making good money doing something, and kind of the husband and wife, or whatever that story is of them, they're like, oh, let's be like they are on HGTV. This looks like fun. And the fun investment took the fun out of it when they started having things go wrong with their rentals. And then all of a sudden, they're in a situation, in most cases, Brian, where they were not eligible for a forbearance. They couldn't stop making their mortgage payments, right? But yet, the tenant could stop paying them. In other words, just because you have a Fannie Mae loan did not make you eligible for not making your mortgage payments. Yet if the tenant lived in a house that had a Fannie Mae mortgage, he by legal right could stop making his rent payments. And so we've been watching this for months, just knowing it was a balloon filling up, right? And I don't even think it's air. I think there's some liquid in this balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think it's going to be ugly when it pops.
Yeah, and I think that, a lot of times, especially if you follow the news and that kind of stuff, we hear about the problems, but a lot of times you don't hear about the solutions. So I was going to ask Eddie, for the investors who they say, look, I want to actually try to find a way to help these landlords. What are some ways that an investor can say, I want to be a part of the solution? I want to try to not just help because I'm a nice guy, but I'm going to find a profitable way to help these people. What's probably the easiest barrier to entry into helping these people out?
Statistics tell us that this small landlord, this 1 to 5 house property owner, right? 75% self-managed, and statistics also tell us, Brian, that 60% pay cash. So there's a lot of them that they own the house free and clear. They could afford to sell or finance it to you, Brian, because they have all equity. And they really made a long-term investment when they bought it. So they weren't looking to cash in, they were looking to get a check. Well, what if they could get a check via, an owner finance note where they finance you or I, Brian, to buy the property, and I could bake in all kind of clauses depending on the story and the situation. Even if I didn't have to start paying them today until I got the tenant evicted, it would relieve them of having to go deal with it. And now I've got a great long-term deal that I could rent the property down the road, or our strategy we love, Brian, we could resell it on a wrap note, and all of a sudden, boom, we build our own bank with it.
Well, guys, and that's what we've been saying is that, most people that got into the landlording business, they wanted to participate in the run up of the real estate business, but they only knew the bricks and mortar side, right? The property side of the business. They didn't know the note side of the business. And what they were looking for was passive income. And like you said, Eddie, the passive income, well, sometimes the invoices, overpowered the money.
Yeah, we really saw, and obviously you see this in the slide deck that we did today. Remember, you can get the slide deck. Just email us at info@noteschool. Just make sure in the body of the email to tell us which presentation it was. And we'll be glad to send it to you. And Joe, we eliminated probably another 2 times of slides. We just didn't have enough time to do them. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of overwhelming data and things that are being written, at least at the loan servicer trade journal levels, about what's happening out here. So Brian, it's a market condition. Did you hear me say that loan servicers have already written a check for $90 billion to cover bondholders' principal and interest payments and the borrower's taxes and insurance payments? So Brian, the servicer is paying taxes and insurance on the house that he's not collecting payments on. How's that work?
It's a bad day.
Well, and the reason they're doing that, Eddie, is because if they did not, then that part of the market would collapse too. And then that would just, big word, right, exacerbate everything else.
Yeah, and part of it is it's I think I'm right in saying this. It's the thing they wrote in Dodd-Frank that kind of put the lender at a little bit of a risk there when they have an escrow account. But the bottom line is, we are going to see a day of reckoning, I believe, with loan servicers. So there is this shortage of credit, Brian, is not going the right direction. The shortage of credit is continuing to decline.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. I appreciate you sharing that. And I know we're wrapping up here on time, but I just wanted to encourage everybody, if this is something that you say, look, I I hear what you're saying. I think I want to get involved, or I just need help learning this information. I would encourage you either to reach out to us on the Contact Us tab on our website, or just go to noteschool.com/TV to learn a little bit more. We appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for saying hi and hello. It is a lot of first-time people. I think that's really great. I love to hear from you guys. And so we'll catch you guys next weekend. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Eddie. We'll see you on the other side.
All right, guys. Bye.